Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another chat with me, Dave Bunbury, on turning customers into regulars. Today, what I want to talk to you about is this concept of the bigger tip. All of us as waiters and waitresses are here to obviously make good tips, to have a successful business. So let me remind you of what we chatted about the last time that we got together. And that was, we spoke about what is the success of any business. The success of any business is about 100% guest returns. It doesn't matter whether you are a business owner, a manager, or a waiter or waitress. Your job is to make sure that guests come back. Your job is to make sure that the guests come back and ask for you. If you're the waiter, what are you doing to make sure that the guest comes back and asks for you? Okay, so I want to start off by chatting about a tip. And what is that? A tip is a privilege, not a right. Please, I need us to all understand that a guest does not have to tip you. Okay, it is a decision that they make as to whether they want to tip you. And what do they do when they make that decision? They base that decision on a couple of things. They base that decision on were you a smiley, happy person? They make that decision on your attitude. Were you happy to serve them? When they asked you for a glass of water, what was your attitude like to them? When they walked in the front door as the manager or manageress, did you greet them with a wholesome smile and a vibey attitude? Did you keep my drinks full? Did you ensure that my table was kept clean and removed things when I was finished? And were just all around pleasant in the way that you dealt with me? And also, did you understand my needs? Now that's a very important part, because in the first part, in the introduction to turning customers into regulars, I really spoke to you about the importance of connecting with your guests. It's more than just looking after the food. It's about how we make the guest feel. It's about the experience. So I want to talk to you a little bit about tips and how it kind of works. The first thing I want you to understand is that you have to actually go out there and earn the tip from the guest. And you need to follow those simple little points that I've got up here. Now, let's just quickly chat about the concept of a tip. And that is, I want to talk to you about the tip number. Okay. Now, what's a tip number? I need you to understand that every person out there has a number that they will tip somebody. So let me give you an example. If I serve you, Dave, come and serve you, and your bill comes to 200 Rand, and I ask you, well, how much will you tip me? You'll say, well, it depends on the service I give you. No, but if I give you the service that you wanted, I smiled, I chose you with my attitude, I made sure your drink was full, I kept your table clean, and I anticipated your needs in terms of what you wanted, how much would you tip me? Some of you might say, well, on a 200 Rand bill, I'll give you 20 Rand. On a 200 Rand bill, I'll give you 40 Rand. Well, what you're doing is you're actually working out there a tip number that you have. So 20 Rand off 200 Rand is 10%. So a 10% tip, that's your tip number. And this is what we as waiters and waitresses need to understand, is that every guest has a specific number that they will tip you on. Some people will even tip you 15% because that's their tip number. So on a 200 Rand bill, they will give you 30 Rand. And generally what will happen is whenever they get served and they get the service that they want, they will tip 15% of the bill. So understand how important it is to understand a guest's tip number, but importantly is you have to earn the right first to get the tip before they will then tip you. So a question that I want to ask you is, what's a good tip? Now, a lot of you might answer that a great tip is 10%. I don't agree. You see, if I want to get a great tip and I come to work, a great tip is possibly 60 Rand, okay? And why do I say 60 Rand is a great tip? You see, 60 Rand is what I come to work with. But the question is, how do I get a 60 Rand tip off a guest? Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's actually quite easy. All I have to do is I have to give them a 600 Rand bill. Because if their tip number is 10%, I'm going to get a 60 Rand tip. And that's the way the bigger tips concept works, is that you have to look at the tables, you have to read the tables, and you have to understand what their needs are. And slowly but surely, add to their bills. Remember, we're never chasing the money. We're wanting to give the guest the best possible experience in our restaurants. And when you do that, as the number increases, because you're delivering on the service aspect and the energy and the smiling, what the guest does is they automatically fulfill their side of the deal, and that is that they will give you their tip number. And in this case, it's 60 Rand if I present them with a bill of 600 Rand. Likely, if I give them a bill of 200 Rand, I'm going to get a 20 Rand tip. And this is what a lot of waiters and waitresses don't always understand. They say, how come that particular waiter or waitress always gets better tips than me? Sometimes it's because they just deliver good service, but what they do is they're continuously developing and building on that bill. So let's have a look at the next section that I want to chat to you about. And that section is going to be reading your tables. So when it comes to reading your tables, what do I need to be aware of? Now, you as the management need to ensure that you are watching the tables that are coming into the businesses and coaching and guiding your waiters and waitresses in terms of what they could be looking for. Okay, as waiters and waitresses, develop this skill. As I said to you in the first part, we can't just serve the tables like we did according to the manual. We need to build on those skills. We need to be better. We can't just be a robot. So now, let me have a look at a couple of examples that I've got for you, for us to have a chat about today. So up here, I've got a family. Now, what do we understand about this family? You've got mom, you've got dad, you've got the two kids. And, what is their need? Well, the need is to make sure that those children are happy. The need is to make sure that maybe those children have arrived at the restaurant and they're hungry and they would like their food a little bit earlier than the rest of the family. And sometimes maybe they eat a little bit slower. So the need is to understand, well, maybe let's feed the kids. Let's get their food to them quickly. But then in the same sense, what can mom and dad do? Instead of nibbling on the child's plate, why not offer them a starter just to nibble on? So this is what a good waiter or waitresses and manager, and you as management coach the guys on that. Make sure that mom and dad's drinks are kept full. They've come out to enjoy themselves, have a glass of wine. The gentleman might have a beer just so that they can relax and unwind. And what's important here to understand is that if the children are happy, then you're going to find that the mom is happy, which means that the dad is going to be happy. There's a little saying that goes along the lines of, happy wife is a happy life. So that's just a little look into what the family needs might be. Now, let's have a look at another example. And that example is going to be of a couple going on a date. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this could be a husband and wife. It could be somebody who is on a date. It could be guys who are celebrating their anniversary. Please don't only think that singles go on a date. Now, what is their needs? Well, their needs is to be in an area that is quiet, that is tranquil, where they can actually get together and just chat. The whole purpose of a date is to get to know each other, to catch up. Husband and wives need to catch up all the time. What are their needs? Well, he wants to make sure that she has the most amazing experience. Believe it or not, but he wants her to order whatever she wants. Okay, if she wants another glass of wine, that's fine. If she wants a starter, they might share a starter. But one thing we do understand is that they're in no hurry. He wants her to enjoy herself. They will have starters to share. Then they'll each have their own main meal and they will relax and they will take their time. And he wants her glass of wine to be kept full, as does he want his own. They want to sit, they want to possibly enjoy a dessert. They're in no rush to go anywhere else. So this is the evening that they have set themselves out for. And you need to understand that and read that as a need. They want to hear about your specials. They want to hear about the quality of your products. And remember, he chose to come to your restaurant because it impresses her. It makes her feel important. So let's move on to the next one. And the next one I want to chat to you about is what's happening in this picture. Well, this here is a group of friends. They've come out for a meal. They've come out to enjoy themselves. You've got boyfriends and girlfriends, or just friends, husbands and wives, maybe, just enjoying a meal out together. And what do they want to do? They actually just want to have a good time. What is their need? Well, they actually want to have a waiter or waitress who's got a sense of vibe, who's got some energy, who's going to make sure that they want for nothing. The guys are going to want to make sure that their drinks are kept full, that they've got their beers. The ladies, maybe they're drinking some wine, or maybe they've got some cocktails that they just want to enjoy. And it is the responsibility of the waiter or waitress to know that they are part of this experience. They're almost like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You're the seventh part of this experience that these people are going through. And you need to ensure that they enjoy themselves. Suggest foods that they can share and chat over. Make sure that you are keeping their drinks full. Like I've said to you, they're here to enjoy themselves and have a great time. And as the waiter or waitress, just enjoy being a part of them. Have the fun and the energy with their table. Now, once you're looking at a table like this, what you also need to understand is that there's another concept that you've got to look for in terms of when you are serving a table and how you can read their needs, but in the same sense, be able to push up the sales. But most importantly is that you're making the experience better for the guests. And that is what you are looking for is you've got to find the buyer. Now, what do I mean by that? You see, ladies and gentlemen, and I go back to this picture, in every group, there's going to be a buyer. There's going to be somebody who enjoys the beer. And you've all had that guest who, when you go and offer this gentleman a beer, he says to you, yeah, get me another beer and get another round for the guys. Or he says, I'll have a beer. Let's get a round for everybody. So what happens now is he's your buyer. When his drink gets low, what do? Offer him another beer. And what will happen is he will probably order for the rest of the group. Or what you do is you walk up to a table and you start speaking about one of your amazing products that you've got. Or you use a simple example like, who enjoys chocolate? And somebody says, oh, I love chocolate. Well, what about a delicious chocolate milkshake? Or have you had a waffle with our delicious chocolate sauce on it? Or you might say, who enjoys a rack of ribs? And somebody says, oh, I love ribs. And what you can do is you now all of a sudden get somebody who becomes the buyer and almost convinces other people to buy the product. Simple example, at the end of an evening, you're watching a table like this, they've got a couple of alcoholic beverages in their presence. What am I going to do when they're rounding off their evening? I might say, sir, ma'am, ladies, who enjoys a delicious Dom Pedro or an Irish coffee? Somebody might say, I love an Irish coffee. I'm telling you now that if you try that, there's a good chance that out of the 6 people there, 2 or 3 of them might take an Irish coffee. Some of them might just take a normal coffee. But what happens is you have caused them to continue their experience and enjoy themselves. So ladies and gentlemen, what I really need you to understand, a tip is a privilege. It's not a right. You have to go out there and you have to earn the tip. You have to give the guest good service. I've given you the points that we spoke about a little bit earlier. You need to ensure that you're looking for ways to increase the bill, but remember, you're always increasing the bill because of the experience. You want to make sure that having a milkshake is the most tastiest drink to have. You add a starter because it adds value. That sauce to the steak is added because it adds to the experience. It's not because it makes the bill bigger for you. It's because you're doing it for the right reasons. And that is to make sure the guest has the most amazing time in our restaurants. And as I've mentioned to you, your job is to make sure that the guests remember you, that the guests come back because of the way that you looked after them, because of the way that you ensured that they had the best experience. And as a waiter or waitress and as a manager, you read that table's experience and you ensured that they had the most amazing time. Now, one way to ensure that you maximize your tips and get the best tips is to ensure that a guest asks for you every time they walk in. Isn't that what you would want to do? But it starts from the way in which you deal with those guests. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you very much for listening to me. I hope that you enjoyed the tip that I've given you today, and I really look forward to the next one. Please subscribe to my channel, and in a couple of days, I will be sharing with you another tip in terms of what we can do in terms of turning customers into regulars.